This weekend was really one of the most consequential and busy weekends of news for a long time. We had the continued Russian invasion of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has coyly floated the idea that maybe nukes are in the picture by raising the readiness level of the nuclear deterrent systems. We'll talk about that. And meanwhile, Republicans held their CPAC convention in Orlando, Florida, as if we needed a reminder of the sick and disgusting nature of the right wing movement. And in addition to this, there was a competing convention, AFPAC, adjacent to CPAC geographically, which was openly white nationalist. Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke there. Mitt Romney has called out, quote, moron Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so we have so much to cover, and let's get right into it, starting with Russia. The first thing I want to just make sure everybody understands is when, number one, news is breaking so quickly on something like Ukraine, Russia. And number two, when some of the things that break as news later turn out to have been incorrectly reported. So, for example, videos that come out purporting to be from Ukraine and they're actually old videos from Russia that don't actually mean what it seems they mean. We're trying to be careful and report the things for which we have good evidence to avoid confusing anybody and to avoid creating more problems than just informing people. There is now widespread confirmation that Vladimir Putin has put nuclear forces on high alert. Now, what that means is subject to some debate, and we're going to talk about that. But I'm going to make every effort to give you all of the information we know to be true, but no more than that, so that people don't end up confused. The Associated Press reporting, President Putin dramatically escalated East-West tensions by ordering nuclear forces put on high alert Sunday, while Ukraine's embattled leader agreed to talks with Moscow as Putin's troops and tanks drove deeper into the country, closing in around the capital. Citing aggressive statements by NATO and tough financial sanctions, Putin issued a directive to increase the readiness of Russia's nuclear weapons, raising fears that the invasion of Ukraine could lead to nuclear war, whether by design or mistake. The Russian leader is, quote, potentially putting in play forces that, if there's a miscalculation, could make things much, much more dangerous, said a senior U.S. official. Putin's directive came as Russian forces encountered strong resistance from Ukraine defenders. Moscow has so far failed to win full control of Ukraine's airspace, despite advances across the country. Another report from CBS News, Putin puts nuclear forces on alert as fighting in Ukraine continues. The way they characterize it are the move means Putin has ordered Russia's nuclear weapons prepared for increased readiness to launch, raising the threat that tensions could boil over into a nuclear war. So, and in the meantime, by the way, Belarus preparing to join Russian invasion of Ukraine, according to U.S. officials. And of course, we should always have a healthy skepticism of what intelligence agencies tell us on this particular issue. They have been mostly right, despite people saying, oh, we can't believe this, we can't trust this, it can't be trusted. So that's the latest, Belarus preparing to join. So what are we to make of this? Well, first of all, consider the contrast between first saying, the sanctions are toothless. We don't care about the sanctions. The sanctions don't affect us. Next, going to, well, we are potentially going to attack U.S. assets as a result of the painful sanctions. Oh, so the sanctions you said don't affect you actually are painful, all the way up to we are going to increase our state of readiness when it comes to our nuclear arsenal as a result of those sanctions. Well, doesn't sound like the sanctions are toothless if that's what you're willing to do. The other aspect of this that I think is important is, like with everything else, we don't know what the point of this is. Is the point to actually get ready to launch nukes? It's hard for me to believe that, because the truth is, if you think you might, quote, need to launch nukes, or you think that you might launch nukes for whatever reason, you're always sort of at a state of readiness. I mean, that's just kind of the reality of how these nations work and how these systems work. So the announcement that you're increasing the state of readiness is less about actually getting ready to launch nukes. You would always be ready to launch nukes if that's what it came to, and to get to that state of readiness quickly. It's more about putting out there that it's using the word nukes. That's really the big thing here. And that's one perspective, that this is mostly meant to be a psychological escalation, a rhetorical escalation rather than a real one. The counterpoint to that is Putin sort of seems like the type of kid that, he poops in the sandbox when it's time to go home because he doesn't want anyone else to be able to play in it either. And that he genuinely, particularly if he is in the altered state that some are describing, might consider using nukes. The next question is, what exactly would he nuke? He wants Ukraine. It doesn't really make sense to nuke Ukraine if you want Ukraine, but he's not rational. This is not a rational guy. And so maybe the point is, use it as a rhetorical deterrent. Use it as something to say, look, I could be crazy. Don't keep don't keep fighting back because I'm nuts and I'm liable to use nukes. We don't know. We really just don't know. And we also don't know how the West would respond if Vladimir Putin actually launched a nuke. It's easy to say, well, it would be a suicidal action by Putin. Okay, yeah, maybe that could be. But what exactly is the response if Putin launches a nuke? At the same time, there are people who said, I can't see Putin launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And we know those people were wrong. So this is what we know. An increased level of readiness has been put forth. What it actually means, we just don't yet know.